Okay, so for this video, we're going to be looking at AUC sections 200.20 through 22, and it's regarding the conduct of an audit in accordance with GAAS. So it says that an auditor should comply with all AUC sections relevant to the audit. An AUC section is relevant to the audit when the AUC section is in effect and the circumstances addressed by the AUC section exist. The auditor should have an understanding of the entire text of an AUC section, including its application and other explanatory material, to understand its objectives and to apply its requirements properly. And the auditor should not represent compliance with GAAS in the auditor's report unless the auditor has complied with the requirements of this section and all other AUC sections relevant to the audit. So in summary, we have under GAAS several AUC sections, and the one we're going through right now is just one of those, AUC section 200, but there are sections that go up to the 900s. And so what this is saying is that we have to go through all of those AUC sections and determine, are they relevant, and if so, we should understand the entire text of that AUC section, which includes several different parts, which we will go through here in a little bit. And also, the auditor can't say that he did the audit under GAAS unless he applied all of the AUC sections that were relevant. So let's go through, using this AUC section 200 as an example, let's go through each of the parts so that we understand what it includes and how to comply with it. So first off, we see that our requirement to apply all of these generally accepted auditing standards is provided by compliance with standards rule of the AICPA. And GAAS is promulgated by the Auditing Standards Board, the ASB. And so the ASB develops standards in the form of statements on auditing standards, which are then codified into AUC sections. And so, for instance, this one we're looking at now is AUC section 200, which came from SAS number 122. So GAAS provides standards for the auditor in fulfilling overall objectives. GAAS also addresses the general responsibilities of the auditor, and then it also boils down these responsibilities into specific topics. And we will see in a little bit when we start exploring this particular section as an example that these AUC sections also provide a scope and effective date for applying the standard, and also include certain limitations of the auditor's ability to comply with the section. But the auditor can apply the AUC section before the effective date if it hasn't been put into place quite yet. In addition to GAAS, the auditor typically is required to follow other standards as well in conjunction with GAAS, and these might include the standards promulgated by the PCAOB, International Standards on Auditing, Government Auditing Standards, or the standards of other jurisdictions. So if the auditor has to apply GAAS plus one of these other standards, he might have to do additional procedures in addition to those required by GAAS in these AUC sections in order to comply with these particular standards. So since we're supposed to understand an entire AUC section whenever we're complying with GAAS, let's go up to the top here and understand exactly what is included in an AUC section so we can understand how to apply and understand all the requirements. So for instance, this one we have AUC section 200, and it provides the overall objectives of the audit. It also gives us an effective date, which is December 15, 2012, several years ago. And it also tells us which SAS numbers were the initial drafts of these standards, which were subsequently codified into this section 200. And so the first area of the AUC sections is the introduction. Typically, it will provide a scope of the section, which will kind of usually give us a purpose for why they have this AUC section. Also might give us an introductory understanding of the subject matter of the AUC section. So for instance, this one has the subject matter might be association with financial statements or an audit of financial statements. It might provide some responsibilities of the auditor, as well as the context in which this AUC section is set. So we have here the effective date, which is December 15, 2012. The next section we have is the overall objectives of the auditor. Each AUC section will have an objective section that tells us the primary goal for why we're applying all the requirements in this section. What are we trying to achieve here? And we'll go into more detail about the objectives section in another video. And the next section is the definitions, and this will give us an understanding of what's the meaning of a lot of the technical terms used in this particular AUC section. So we've got several definitions here. And the next section will be the requirements. And these give us specific duties and responsibilities of the auditor in order to achieve the objectives in this AUC section. We'll discuss the requirements in another video. But to support these requirements, there is also an area of the AUC section called application and other explanatory material. And this area provides some other information on how to apply and comply with the requirements. So within each of these requirements above, there's a reference to a paragraph that starts with the letter A. And so, for instance, if we wanted to get some more color on this particular requirement, we would go down to A77 to A78, which is all the way down to the bottom. Maybe should have selected an earlier one, but so we would go down to A78 and 79, which would give us some more information about how to apply that particular requirement. And here it is. And then finally, typically, these AUC sections at the end will have an appendix. This one doesn't, but typically what's included in the appendix would be additional information that might be useful to the auditor in applying this other explanatory material section or the requirements. Sometimes there will be letter templates, for instance, engagement letter or letters to governance that would help the auditor in complying with a particular requirement. So in summary, we have to understand this entire AUC section as well as other AUC sections that might be relevant to the audit and apply the requirements, which might be supported by other explanatory material and appendices.